Welcome to the Parker Web Partner Show, where we find creative solutions for creative agencies.
Well, welcome to the Parker Web Partner Show. Thanks for joining us today. I am here with my co-host, Meryl.
Hi, I'm Meryl Oshner, founder and podcast producer with Smith Douglas Associates, a creative agency based in New York.
And I am Daryl Parker with Parker Web. And today we have a great show ahead. We're going to be talking about why the customer really matters. CRM. That's what we think CRM means. And we're going to be talking about CRM systems and tools. And we're going to start out with Caleb. And I'm going to talk about a couple of things. And then we have a great guest coming on, Lidiane Mocko, who's going to tell us a lot about CRM. She's a CRM consultant and works with small businesses all over the country and helping implement their CRMs. So welcome to the show. Next up, we're going over to our developers desk where we're going to talk to Caleb about what's going on at Parker Web behind the scenes. Caleb, what's going on in the developers desk?
So recently, and just on theme with our topic of CRMs, we've gotten lots of tickets from clients just looking for, can you help me connect to this? Or can you assist me in adding this form, to my site? There's lots of different ways that clients can connect their site to a CRM. There are plugins for WordPress, for example, for things like HubSpot and Opt-in Monster. There are ways that you can embed forms using something like ActiveCampaign, which can be really useful because then you can style that form after you've embedded it so that it matches the rest of the site, and then all those leads can go right into your CRM. Or there are other, so sort of integrations with things like contact forms that will connect to Salesforce or ActiveCampaign, or sometimes you need a little help in connecting those forms, which is when we turn to something like Zapier.
So that's what we're seeing, though? We're seeing people needing Zapier more or needing this integration more?
I think it really all depends on what they're looking for. I think it's a total variety. But what you will see more and more is that for something like WordPress, there are an increasing amount of people that are connecting to X CRM. And so there will be a plugin for getting that integration working, which is
on their website. So wherever, if they have their website and it's out there, or if they're running a campaign on social media and they need it to come back to a form that's in their branded web page, they can do that. If they don't necessarily want to do it in the CRM, they can do it on their website, right? And the website can connect back. Yeah, That's great. It's a great reminder about how flexible the website can be as a platform for your business. Yeah. So and feed all the other components. So
for sure.
Well, that was really informative, Caleb. I really appreciate you bringing us that information. This week in the corner office, we're going to talk about how we use CRM at Parker Web and how I invested in it over the last 15 years. So one of the things that I did coming out of the recession of 2008 and 9 is we started working with clients on scale instead of having just a handful, and having maybe a dozen or so clients where they were big. And we mostly were working with them from a project management perspective to having dozens and then hundreds of clients. And it required us to try to develop a system that would allow us to work with the clients in such a way where we could maintain their information, but it wasn't QuickBooks. Like, it didn't seem like QuickBooks or all these other kind of off-the-shelf systems match the business process that we were trying to implement with how I wanted to run my business. So at the time, my only solution was to build something. So we built this system in 2009. And so you have to remember, this is a 15-year difference, right, to today. So we have rebuilt it a few times. We've gone in, we've learned a lot about how our employees interact with the system, how our staff, even our contractors use the system. we've married it up with other systems. So like we use a different third-party ticketing system that then we use an API to connect with. We actually aren't using Zapier, but we use a custom API that we built to connect to the system. So at some point, if you're going to scale and you're going to say, hey, I want to have more than enough, I want to have more customers than I can keep their information in my head, you're going to have to consider some kind of CRM system operationally, or as we're going to talk about with Liddy, especially when you start getting into handling leads and handling a lot of volume on that side of the house. I mean, what's your experience with that, Meryl?
I have worked with companies that had high-end CRMs. I have worked with companies that put everything in Excel, and it did not work very well. I started working with a law firm that had just spent six figures to move over to Salesforce, and then treated it like a Rolodex.
Oh gosh.
I was like, you just bought a Lamborghini to drive to and from this train station. What are you doing? And I kept explaining, like, this is this powerful tool. You put this information in. And the lawyers were like, oh, no, the admins are going to use it. They can put all the notes in. I'm like, the admins aren't the ones speaking to your clients. They don't know.
Right.
And
well, I think that gets into what we're going to touch on here shortly is, the philosophy of a CRM and why do you have a CRM and when is it important for you to start considering a CRM? So,
and the training, it's not, you can't just show up one day in your company and saying, okay, guys, we got this new CRM, go play with it.
Right.
It has to be adopted from the bottom up, from the top down. And it has to be part and parcel of how you deal with every day. I mean, I used to use Salesforce. We didn't use Outlook. We didn't use Gmail. All email came and went through Salesforce.
Yeah.
So we can look immediately like, okay, when's the last time I reached out to this person and what did I say? Well, you go to that person's field and here's all the emails we sent back and forth. It makes it so much easier.
Right. It just integrates that data collection into your daily operations, the things that you're doing every day. So we're going to talk some more about it coming up. But the big takeaway is that there is no magic bullet for how to solve the CRM problem. It usually comes in a lot of different ways, but it is something that as you grow, you're probably going to have to reckon with at some point. And how you do that, there is no wrong way as long as you're making an effort and as long as you don't treat it like a Rolodex. Right?
Exactly.
All right, well, welcome to the Roundtable today. Today we're going to talk about CRMs, customer relationship management tools, and why they're important. And today we have with us Lidiane Mocko. Liddy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I am an immigrant. I was born and raised in Brazil. I have been in the US for 20 years, became a citizen in 2015. And my background was as a software engineer before I started working with CRM systems. And I went back to school. I got an MBA at the University of Denver and then started doing consulting work with customer relationship management systems.
And that's how we met. You were doing, you work with small businesses and consult with them to try to integrate CRMs into their businesses, right?
Yes.
Yep. And so you do like seminars and you do like a blog about it. You have a lot of information about CRMs.
Yeah, I have a blog. I have hosted workshops here in the Denver area, Denver metro area at co-working spaces. And I've been guest in different podcasts. And and a lot of work with small and growing organizations in terms of helping them to implement the CRM or these days, more than helping them implement from the beginning, quite often I get engaged when they already had a system for a while.
Oh, gotcha.
And they have some pain points because it's not really working as they expected. So,
right. I'm a business owner. I have an agency. I work with clients. Why have a CRM? Why is it important to me?
Yeah. do you remember what you had for breakfast exactly 3 weeks ago?
No. Well, it was probably oatmeal, but it would be a guess.
And so you have an agency, so it's somewhat like a consulting, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
when people are going to purchase services from you, do they come up, give you a call and say, oh yeah, I'm paying you right now, we're good? Does that happen?
Not often, no.
Okay. Yeah. So, so it doesn't happen often. So does that mean you need um, to do follow-ups? You need to understand, what did you talk to them last? Should you talk to them about next time you meet with them? So
So it's a record of like the interaction with a person, right? So I met Caleb, and now I'm trying to, I want to get to know Caleb better in case Caleb wants to buy something from me, right? In the future.
there's a bigger picture, right, in terms of
Okay.
customer relationship management. There are three main pillars from my perspective.
Okay.
One is any business owner needs to do some level of marketing. If they're doing some level of marketing, they're going to a trade show, they're going to a networking event or networking group, they're getting information about other people who might be potential clients or not. Where is that information going, especially if you need to follow up?
Okay.
So in a CRM system, they would go into a leads record, and then you would do your follow-ups with those leads and try to understand, are they a good fit from a budget perspective, from a fit perspective in terms of what they need versus what you offer, from a timing perspective, like they want things for yesterday, but you have clients and you cannot drop everybody and just go work for them right now, So you evaluate those factors, and then if all of those fit, then you can convert them. Okay, so there's enough fit here for us to keep talking. Then you, in a CRM system, you convert that lead record into a contact record, an account record, and potentially an opportunity record. And the opportunity record is the one that has that beautiful sales pipeline that a lot of people see, that funnel in
Right.
some graphs, and that's where you start having more. Okay, so now I have enough information to know that we can talk more. So let's discuss, scope of work, and once you start having those conversations about scope of work, there is some back and forth. There's some education that goes into it, just so they understand how you approach marketing. What is valuable? What do you do differently from somebody else that does marketing? And there is some back and forth, right? And then there is a part that you get to a negotiation, a proposal, and then they need to sign. So, and all those things usually happen sometimes over a period of 3 months. If you're lucky,
Mm-hmm.
they might happen over a period of time of 2 weeks. In reality, you usually don't have control over that, right? Because it's a conversation, and sometimes they really want to work with you, you really want them as a client, and COVID hit, and you need to figure out, okay, okay, I know you want to work with me, so let's just keep in touch, and I will reach out to you once things calm down. Once you have, assessed what happens on your end, I assess what happens on my end, and how we manage this crisis that is affecting everybody at the moment,
Yeah.
right? So that's where the CRM is important, because especially small business owners, where quite often they are not doing just sales. They might not have necessarily someone dedicated for that sales role. Even if they do, if they have someone dedicated for the sales role, a good salesperson has a notebook where they're keeping track of things. As a business owner, do you want them to keep it in their notebook?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I worked for a big multinational corporation, and I got it headhunted from a startup that had a very robust CRM system. So I went to this huge multinational corporation and I asked, well, what CRM system do you use? And I got a few raised eyebrows and they said, a what? And I said, well, where do you keep all your client information? Where do you keep all your customer information? And one of the sales guys hauled out this big packet of business cards from his back pocket and
Yeah.
said, oh, this is my database. And it's like, and if you get hit by a bus, what happens to your clients? I had never seen such a big company not have a CRM. And I came from a 15-person tech startup with full bells and whistles Salesforce. So it was a very odd feeling, and not surprisingly, that big multinational company got bought out and no longer exists.
I mean, I can remember 10 years ago having a folder full of business cards. That was my reference point. You know, if I was going to a networking event or something, have I seen this person? I would go back and flip through and say, is there somebody there that I need to see? That type of thing. So I definitely can see where it translates over to almost like an operating system for your marketing, right? It kind of gives you these points to move along for marketing. So you said that's one pillar. Is there, and you said there's 3 pillars for CRM usage?
Yeah, so the one is marketing, which is the lead, because what happens is anybody investing money in digital marketing, where are you capturing the leads?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you should funnel them, integrate them with a CRM. So if you're investing your money in marketing, you need to know where those leads are going because you need to do your follow-ups to convert them. So marketing is one. The second is the sales aspect and the sales pipeline. And the third one is customer service, which is
Okay.
a ticketing management system or customer service in
So
general.
that's when they're already a customer. They've become a customer and you're using the same information that you used during the lead process and the opportunity process to now they're working with you.
Yeah, there are different types of records in the CRM. So from a lead, it's converted into a contact. Then you have their account. Then you have an opportunity that represents your engagement with them, a specific engagement. Over time, you might have more than one engagement with the same account. They are represented by different opportunity records. And then you have case management or tickets, you know, in order to represent the customer service aspect of once they became a client. And that's the core. If you're working in a platform like Salesforce, then you can incorporate an integration with a project management system, or install a project management from the App Exchange that would help you to manage the phases of your project and track how that is going if you are in a service-based business.
Well, that's one thing I like about the big CRMs because it's goes from the, okay, we were at a trade show. What leads did we get? We put that in the system. We tag it with the show. Somebody else, our sales guys reach out. They're not ready to buy yet. And then the person visits our website and downloads a white paper. We can add that to the CRM and then possibly download something else from our website. We can track that. So by the time our salesperson gets back to the person, like, okay, I see we met at this show and you were really interested in this. Well, I just want to let you know we're updating. So we're doing that. So I'd love to tell you about our new. And so it's not just a Rolodex. It's not just the contact information. It's all the contact points, what trade shows, what digital marketing, what's been effective. How often has the salesperson touched point? So if you're a manager, you can go and say, okay, it's been 6 weeks since that trade show. Is all our leads followed up? So you can do a report. You can do a dashboard saying, okay, we got X number of leads and the salespeople qualified this many and this many are hot leads. And these were just, college students who stopped by the book booth to pick up a swag. And that way you can monitor this from the first touch point till either the final sale. And as you said, beyond the sale, when customer service can now come in saying, oh, I see you bought this at this point and you've got this model. There's a problem there. We can help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Meryl. That is, that's very much all that goes into it. Yeah, I think the main thing, so I talked about lead records, opportunity records, account records, contact records. I think what you brought up is the campaign, because like in most CRMs, you're going to have a campaign where you can have contacts or leads tied to a campaign.
Hmm.
And a specific campaign can even help you to see, okay, like now I can see that this client was he was actually exposed to 3 different campaigns before he made a purchase,
Oh yeah.
or
Exactly. And as a
yeah.
former marketing manager, you can look at that saying, where should my market budget go? It's like,
Hmm.
wow, this trade show generated X number of leads that turned into X number of sales. This trade show had twice as many leads, but only 2 sales. So maybe we want to spend more money on trade show A than trade show B. And the same thing with digital campaigns. Okay, we did this Facebook and we did this SEO and we did this. This is the information coming in. What's our best ROI? What's our best bang for the buck? And you can't do that unless you've been tracking that, and CRMs are the easiest way to track.
So one of those situations, if there's a particularly sales oriented entrepreneur, right, and they're like a solopreneur, or maybe it's them and one other person. Maybe they have gotten into like a CRM or something cloud based or something easy, straightforward for them to track. I was not that person, right? So I didn't do, I was very much winging a prayer in terms of who I was building a relationship with. And maybe I had a little bit of a Google sheet or something that said, okay, I need to call that person again. But I mean, when does it make sense for a company to really start considering, hey, it might be time for us to look at getting a CRM?
Yeah, good point. My response to that is, how long do you want to stay in business? Do you believe in what you're doing? Because if you do, you're going to start from day one, and there's no excuse not to start, because okay, you don't want to spend any money, then there are some free ones. You can get started with a free version of HubSpot. Salesforce has a small business offering that starts at $25 per user per month, you know.
But is it really
Uh,
about the money, or is it more about the time that it takes to do all these different steps and keep up with those things? Or maybe the
well,
training, maybe are CRMs intimidating? I would think they're a little intimidating too.
yes, they are. They're definitely intimidating because it is, you need to think in terms of data and how you're going to use it. And oh God, I've seen, I've seen there was a client once that all their revenue information, instead of being in opportunity records, they had it in notes under the contact record because they knew they needed a database. They had no idea what CRM meant or how to use things in a
Right.
CRM,
There's a skill involved, right?
Yeah.
And most of these platforms offer some kind of skill training, right? That where to
Yeah.
get you
Yeah.
over that initial hump.
Yeah. You can Google, like, just give me an overview of the CRM. Like, HubSpot has in their HubSpot Academy has different courses available. Salesforce, with their small business offering, also has a lot of tutorials. They are trusting that you're purchasing that level of subscription, you don't have the budget to hire a consultant to walk you through it.
Right.
So they will give you videos for you to onboard yourself. Back to your question, it's like I asked first, my very first question, do you remember what you had for breakfast 3 weeks ago?
Right.
Uh, so as your business is evolving, it's always helpful to go back and look at data from 5 years ago or 3 years ago or within a year, like, okay, if I look at a year ago, who was I talking to? What was happening, And you can pull some reports in the CRM and look at the activities and look at the opportunity records you created, the contact records you created around that time, and have a better pulse.
Yeah, I think for us, the turning point was when the client information could no longer just live in my head. right? And
Mm.
it had to be someone else had to have access to that information, and we needed to have access to it in kind of a universal way. And that we built our first little CRM system. We wound up building an internal one and combining it with a ticket system, and built that very early on in our kind of like growing as a small company focused on these services that we offer. And it changes the way that we interact with our customers. And now we're to the point where we're outsourcing and I'm employing people to specifically work on business development. So now a CRM from the lead side and the marketing side becomes more important because it's no longer just in my head, right?
Yeah, so good point. So you're talking to me like I'm obviously biased, right? That's what I do for a living. So, and also I'm more of
Well,
a
that's why you're
technical.
here, because you're biased.
Yeah. And more of a technical background. So I like systems in general. So if you're not a person like with this profile, like if you're more like Darrow, who you got to a point where you had so many clients that
Mhm.
it was too much information and your team was growing too. You couldn't
Right.
just keep the information in your head because you needed to collaborate with your team. So you ended up building an internal system. And now you are at another stage where, okay, I want to grow my wingers a little bit more. What does that mean? Okay, I am hiring other people to do some of the business development. In this case, then I need a CRM to track the leads and the sales process just so I can identify how that is going.
That's perfect. I think it's a good point. I mean, there is no sure definite time, but and if you have the inclination, do it, right? I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
But if you don't, there are some points where you definitely are going to have to do it at some point if you
Um,
want to continue to grow.
yeah, I cannot tell you how many times during like an implementation process, it always starts with resistance. You know,
Hmm.
there is one person in the team who has the vision or who had some experience in corporate America and came in and, oh, we need a CRM. Let's work with someone. And then in that stage, there's a lot of resistance because in the implementation, I'm going around and asking questions. I try to make people comfortable. I try to meet you where you're at, but still, people feel insecure. Oh, maybe she's judging how I'm making my own process. Like all
Right.
those insecurities come up in that process. And, but I cannot tell you how many times I heard exactly what you said. Oh my God, I don't need to keep all this in my mind. But
Right.
that's when that's the moment when the light bulb starts to go on, when they start seeing the data coming together in the system
Mhm.
and they start realizing, oh, I can just do this filter and then I have this data that I need and I can pull this report and I can have this dashboard and just click a button to refresh it so I can, you know, host my meeting with everybody looking at the same thing. So that sentence right there, it doesn't have to live in my head anymore. It's a good one.
And even if you're a solopreneur, a CRM is good because, yeah, even if it's living in your head, there's a lot of stuff living in your head.
Oh
You've
yeah.
been networking, you've been meeting people in networks. You go through your database like, who is this person again? Where did I meet them? What did I talk about? And if nothing else, I remember using Salesforce, you can set up like little calendar things like reach out after 6 months. This is what we talked about. Within Salesforce, you can email directly from Salesforce. So within the one thing, it's like, okay, here are all the emails I sent. Here are the notes. And you can also customize it like, oh, here's his birthday. Oh, his anniversary is in this day. Let's send out a card just as a reminder saying, hi, you're top of mind. There's so many things you can do with it. Again, like I said, it's not just for sales marketing, it's a customer relation. You can customize it to work on how you have relationships with your customers.
Well,
Yeah.
that
As
leads us.
someone, oh,
Yep.
Oh, go ahead, Caleb. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, as someone who is very data minded and data driven, but also someone who has a absolutely abysmal memory, I use our system constantly, all the
Yeah.
time, every day, and it is absolutely invaluable.
Well, while we're talking about systems and tools, that's kind of how we like to wrap up. So, Liddy, what's your favorite tool that you like to use in this space?
Okay. Yes, I just want to touch on one thing because we
Okay.
talked a lot about the CRM and the value industry aspects, but I know, Caleb, with your background, like one of the things that happened after the initial implementation of the CRM is the integration piece. And when we get to that integration, because then it's kind of like, okay, we got up here, how do we get up there now? Which tools do we need to integrate with? And when we get to that point, then there are different features that can be used. There's API integration. There's some level of automation that you can build within the tools. Depending on the tool, they're going to have different levels of automation. And a tool that I know Caleb mentioned before is Zapier. And so there's a lot of Zapier integration that can be leveraged because that can make information flow from one system to another. So, but I think I'm not gonna say too much more about it because I think Caleb probably has maybe some use cases of integration with Zapier that he can share when it's his turn. In terms of tools, at this point, I am a Salesforce partner and Salesforce certified consultant. Salesforce is my favorite CRM. At the same time that I say that, I am also, how can I say? It's tough. It's a tough one to say because it has grown so much. It's so much more than just a CRM. If they could, I think right now they would be calling themselves AI Force.
Oh.
and you might see that term coming up pretty soon, But yeah, I really like Salesforce in terms of it's a platform that has a lot of flexibility. You can do different types of automation, and you can do a lot of tracking of business processes through the customizations that go beyond those aspects of marketing, sales, and customer service that we talked about. And that's one of the reasons I like it. On the other hand, I will be very transparent that I do feel a little uncomfortable because I feel like Salesforce has been it's becoming so big that to me it's almost like compared to the big four of Facebook, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, and it's just not talked as much because it's more on a business to business. It might not be at the forefront.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the part that I feel a little kind of anytime that there
But
is such a dominant force in the market, I think it's a little scary.
Caleb, so Liddy brought you into that. What's your tool for this week?
Yeah. I mean, Zapier, we've found to be very, very useful for any number of things. It's a really great tool for when a client comes to us and they're looking to do something, they're looking to connect to their CRM, they're looking to do something that isn't, quite standard, or they're looking to customize something for their business and they're not really sure how to do it. And if there hasn't been a standard implementation of that, Zapier is perfect to have that kind of functionality for a client. It's very easy to use. It uses triggers and actions, and it's definitely our go-to for when a client is like, "Hey, can we do this?" And we can say,
Well,
"Yes,
and
yes,
that's
we
the thing
can."
I really like about Zapier. It's almost like
Mhm.
your business becomes this central hub, and you can go out and pull the things that your business needs specifically. And it's almost like it becomes its own unique thing in the world because you've connected all these things to it. Right. And so it's like, well, this is how I use Zapier. This is how I use all these tools that it connects to in order to uniquely execute on my company. So I think it's a great product.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And it avoids like what would be the other option? If you're not using Zapier, it would require you to create an IT infrastructure in the
exactly.
cloud and host some code up in the cloud. And then next thing you know, a lot of business owners are having to become IT experts, and with that, using Zapier as an integration tool simplifies a lot and decreases cost and complexity.
Absolutely. Meryl, did you come up with something this week?
Yeah, well, one of the things I do as a consultant is some of my consultant clients are hourly. And so I use a program called Clockify, which lets me monitor time. Right before I start working a project, I hit go and I'll work on the project. And when I finish at that point, I hit stop, and it just monitors how much time I'm spending on each particular project for each particular client. And I set up okay, with this client, I'm charging this much an hour. So at the end of the month or end of the week, and however we set up billing, I just do give me a report. It gives me a total report, and it could actually generate an invoice as well. So I find that very useful. I have several lawyer clients. They recommended it, and I find it highly useful.
That's very cool. The thing that I jump into is Calendly. So I actually had to, because we were using a pop email service, I wound up having to move into Exchange in order to really maximize Calendly, because I'm not using Gmail or anything like that. And Calendly has been a game changer in the way that I'm able to set appointments with my clients, and not just in the sales mode, but with clients, with my staff, with my students when I'm teaching. So it allows me to open my calendar up to the public in a very controlled way, because I can create different links that come into Calendly to say, expose this calendar to this link and expose that calendar to that link. And then it all talks back to my main calendar, which then interacts with my mobile, and it's all synced up, right? So it's been, there's just no more back and forth. And my meeting volume has just skyrocketed since I've gotten the system set up. So I found it to be an extremely useful tool for people who are in the position where they need to meet with people on a regular basis.
And especially, like you said, the back and forth. How's Tuesday? No, Tuesday's not good for me. How about Wednesday? Well, one of the things that Calendly now does is you can send out a note to a group of people saying, okay, pick the dates and times that works for you. And once everyone clicks the same one, it will book that time.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
If you're trying to set up a meeting with a group of people, you can just have them saying, okay, pick which one that works. The first one that everyone says yes, booked.
Nice. Lidiane Mocko, thank you so much for joining us here today. Tell us how folks can find you.
Yeah, CRMGrowthStrategy.com. There is a schedule button on the very homepage, and that's where they can learn more. And on LinkedIn, if you search by my name, Lidiane Mocko, that's going to get
you
that
my...
We'll put it in the show notes. So your link to LinkedIn will be down in our show notes. Thank you so much for coming out today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you for joining us here today on the Parker Web Partner Show. Meryl, any closing words?
I always thought CRMs were so important, and it gets frustrating when you're talking to other people who either have their stack of business cards or, oh, I just put them in a spreadsheet. Yeah, that's the tricycle. If you have a company and you want to grow that company, you can't be on the tricycle. At least get a Huffy or a 10-speed or, Salesforce, which is the Harley Davidson. But it's if you want to grow, you're going to need a real CRM.
Yeah, I would say that I grew my company, to several hundred customers with a big wheel. I just was doing it the hard way, and it has made such a difference. We had a really pretty nice system, custom system for the operations side, but the sales side, we've only recently taken that on and incorporated it in. It makes just such a huge difference. So.
Yeah, having a CRM makes your life easier. You're thinking, oh God, CRM, big, scary. I don't know how to do this. It's expensive. Blah, blah. It pays for itself very quickly, and it will really help you scale up your business.
Well, and I think you get the return. You're not going to learn it overnight, but if you give yourself 90 days of just kind of immersing yourself in it and trying to learn about it, before you know it, you're going to try to say, well, how did I ever live without it?
Exactly.
So it was really good to hear from Caleb about how our own customers are asking for this already. We touched a little bit about our internal CRM system that we built, 14 years ago. And then it was great to have Liddy here to talk more about her experience and the philosophy of a CRM and when does it make sense to bring a CRM. And, she's got a ton of knowledge in Salesforce and whatnot. So I hope everyone reaches out to her. So thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you on the next show.
Have a great week, everyone.
You've been listening to the Parker Web Partners Show. If you need help in this ever-changing digital world, reach out to us at 877-321-2251 or visit our website at parkerweb.com.